Hello and welcome to this replay or live version of Stampscapes Friday Night Live. What we're going to try here is an experiment using three different types of surfaces. They're vastly different in terms of the types of media that can be applied to them and the methodology. Here I have a piece of foil, silver foil. Okay, it's silver foil cardstock, and then this one is a printable vinyl sticker paper. And then we just have our plain cardstock here. This one's a semi-gloss. And I'm going to try to combine these into a horizon card, kind of a reflection card, but I'm really going more for a horizon kind of format here. I don't need too much of that reflection from up here going into this space right in here. I just want it to kind of shimmer, so I'm doing it on the silver. I've pre-stamped the Seaside Cove, the large version, onto this, and that's something that I'm going to be positioning my lighthouse right over in the corner here, and then I'll probably put another island out here. I'm going to try to do something different on this as well as having these three different, types of papers on here. And that is, I'm going to try to make this top portion a little bit more dramatic in terms of the amount of contrast that's up in that space. So I don't know if this is going to work or not, or, if it does, how well, but we'll try to bring it together here. So, okay, so I want this Seaside Cove I wanted it to shimmer, all right? But this type of paper, the only thing that I have that's really going to stick on it, hello, Ginger, is the Stays-On ink. So I stamped out my Seaside Cove in Stays-On, all right? But, I need to go back over some of this with my white Brilliance ink, which will adhere to it, and it won't adhere to it, it'll dry on it. And I usually do that underneath something, and then I stamp over the top of it so that the white kind of blocks it out. But, if I tried that on this, I don't know if it would stick or not. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. So, in other words, I want some of these waves to stand out nice and light instead of silver on here. So, I don't know. We're going to try to be... try to do what we can with this one, at least in terms of the concept. As I was explaining that, I was thinking maybe I should have put the white underneath this just to begin with, because if you apply white over the top of it, then you're losing your forms, your imagery on there. So I don't know. We'll see if we can get this to work out or not. Okay, so I don't want my sand area to be all glimmery and shiny like that, like the water part. So that's where this white paper comes in. Okay, just the white cardstock. So this is going to be positioned right here. I've tried this before with a printable vinyl on this area, and I thought it looked pretty interesting, but it's a matter of kind of merging these two areas together that look vastly different, right? And to get them to kind of harmonize within reason. So that being said, I'm going to have to make this quite a bit darker. And I thought I would start off with that. Okay, so I'm not going to adhere these two pieces together because I think it's just going to be easier working on this piece. But I'll get the gist of where this is going to be going with a couple of marks on this paper. So this is just going to be kind of like sand down here, so I'll put my marks right about here. So I'll just put my tones up to about right there. Okay, so this is going to be sand, and I want it to, wet sand should be somewhat reflective as well. This imagery isn't going to be, full of color because it's already on the silver like that, and I can't really color it in with colors. So this one's going to be reasonably or fairly monochromatic, okay, in terms of my usage of media, black and white, grayscale. But the thing is, when we're using this type of printable vinyl, there's a lot of colors in there inherently, so I don't have to really worry about those colors, or applying colors to be, to have a colorful scene. So you can see that being reflected right down here just already, so that's already taken care of. All right, okay, but that being said, this area down here is going to be illuminated with light, and I'll just keep that in mind. Let's see how this goes here. All right. Okay, so I'm going to add a lot of rock textures in here, and let's see, let's put a little bit of tone down here first, and then we'll add in some rocks, and then we'll just add some extra tone over the top of it. I think that'll work the best. If I stamp this out right now, when I start applying my inks over the top of it, it could smear these if I do them just in dye-based inks. So let's get a little bit toned down just as a foundation, so I won't have to add in so much shadow and toning after the impressions are made. So let's go with the London Fog gray scale, and let's see, the Marvy gray is a little bit darker than this one, just to give me a little bit more variation, and then we'll go with black. So these are all dye-based inks, okay? Hello, Kay and Vintage Scrap Girl. How are you all today? How's everyone doing? I hope you all had a nice week. I feel like I just said that. These weeks are going by so fast. Okay, so I have 3 different pebble textures that will be used in this area. You don't have to use all of them. I do want 2 different sizes because this is a pretty large area to fill in right here. By the way, this is 8.5 inches by, oh gosh, I don't remember what this is. 4.5, okay. It was almost going to be a half page, but I thought this type of horizon card works a little bit better if it's not so high this way, so not quite slimline, but I just trimmed an inch off the top of a half page format here. Okay, so let's see. All right, so it's just in general, it's going to be lighter in here and darker on the perimeter, okay? That's just, I don't know, that's probably 98% of my lighting schemes and my scenes. You know, we're not working on like super large format pieces here, you know. 2 feet wide, 30 by 40 inches or something like that. So in these these smaller card formats like this, even a half page, relatively speaking, in terms of media being applied, that's fairly small. So kind of centralized lighting just works, really good for cards. Okay, so I'm going to try to get a pretty good slathering of this going in here, and I think I'm going to have to go fairly dark just to get it to match with this type of, you can see how dark this silver is. I mean, of course, with the reflection on there, it's, it could be really super light, but it's in that mirrored type of format, it's going to be reflecting a lot of darker things, usually. Even in a format like this, where I have a lot of light in my studio, and it's coming from every direction right onto this table right here, you can see how dark it really, looks, right? All right, so semi-gloss, it's absorbing my ink fairly quickly. This is one of those things, anytime I'm doing this type of dye-based ink on cardstock, white cardstock process, I'm not just toning and coloring, but what I'm doing is I'm also, with this first color, I'm kind of saturating the surface of my paper fairly well, so that when I get into these darker tones like this, they're just easier to blend, you know, because you're going on to like a wet on wet style of applications, which makes the colors easier to kind of glide onto your piece, and it's not getting absorbed into the paper so fast. If anyone ever has kind of trouble with this type of process, it's when they get into the darker tones. It's like, you know, it leaves a harsh mark or something, you know, and they can't get it to blend smoothly. If that's what, you know, if that's the kind of texturing they're going after. And that's all I need to do is just, they need to spend a little bit more time with their base coat instead of just coloring something. What you're doing, you're just saturating your page a little bit more. The surface and pulp. So you don't need to make it sopping wet or anything like that. You just make it a little bit more damp. Harder to do in kind of more arid conditions, so usually the thing that I do is I just put in some re-inker fluid, and that makes the process go a lot faster. I'm not sure if I had... No, okay, I do have London Fog. I wasn't sure if I had London Fog or not. So if you want to make things like really easy for yourself, just put some re-inker fluid on your whatever applicator you're using, and you can see that slathering like that. And you can see how easy that is to apply like that. Especially with your first color. Don't do it with every color. Okay. So go like that. And that should do it here. Well, let's go a little bit. This is the lightest color, so that is going to be my kind of point of illumination within the piece. All right, something like that. So that's just the first color though, right? So I can see where that illumination is. Maybe I'll go a little bit darker here. I'll come down below that that wave right there, or that foam. Maybe I should have left a little bit lighter in here. Okay, so here's the thing that I'm thinking. I probably should have left things a little bit lighter in here. I was leaving it a little bit lighter up here, not kind of measuring it off. Okay, so if this area right here is just a little bit kind of darker than what I'd want, the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some other tones in here that are darker than this, so that this area right here, by contrast, will seem lighter, you know, visibly. It's not going to be actually lighter, but hopefully it'll look a little bit lighter. It'll illuminate it more, and I'll do that with texture as well, with all the textural impressions with the rocks. Okay, so switching up, use your same applicator. That makes it a good transition between one ink and the next one, especially if you're going from lighter to darker. Like that. You can see it's just, you know, it's just a little bit darker than the previous tone. It'll get darker the more you apply in here too. Now memento inks are really thick too, so sometimes it leaves a really big slathering because it's thick ink and it's kind of staying a little bit more surface oriented. So sometimes if you're using like all memento inks, maybe allow it to sit a little bit, you know, and have it set up a little bit before you apply your next layer. Or you can just heat set it for a couple seconds. Don't dry it out though. You still want it fairly wet. Because sometimes what happens is you start building up like 3 layers of ink on here, and they're really super thick inks, and you start going, and you want to apply some more ink and make things darker or whatever over the top of it, and what you're doing, even on a semi-gloss cardstock that's, you know, fairly porous, you might end up like wiping ink off. But if you're wiping ink off, it means you've applied, you know, the amount of ink that you really should to make things a lot easier, okay? You just have to let it, you know, kind of dry off a little bit. Or like I said, heat set it for a little bit, but don't dry it out because you want things to flow on there. Hello, Bonnie, Linda, Candy, Annie, and Caroline. How are you all? Okay, so here goes the black. So this is where I'm benefiting from the saturated surface saturation and some pulp saturation of the inks like that, because that blends out pretty well. If you're just doing it on kind of a blank piece of paper, if you put down something like this, that's not going to spread around, right? But if your paper is a little bit damp like that, so I can get that on there, but I can still kind of pull and blend it out, okay? You can see my fingerprints right there, where it's actually kind of wet and wet, where it's really it's removing that ink. It's basically inks. It's what the ink's kind of floating on the surface a little bit. My paper towel is shredding, but that's all right. Okay, let me see how this is going here. All right, it's kind of getting there. We have a lot more to go. I want to take it almost to black in here, so, but you just kind of move it gradually, okay? So keep that kind of transition of tones in there. Mine's kind of clunky, but it's, I haven't added in any of the texturing yet, so the texturing is going to take care of a lot of the kind of the rougher spots. I mean, my application here is not like airbrush smooth or anything like that, but it doesn't have to be. And I think too, I think I'm going to be using some colored pencil over the top of this as well. So, you know, don't when you start doing like your first layers of media, and if things don't, look exactly the way you think they should look in the end result, don't really worry about that. Just kind of keep working it and go through your steps, because those other steps are the things that kind of bring things together anyway. Sometimes for me, depending on what type of process I'm using, techniques or something like that, sometimes things come together in a 10-part process or something like that. Sometimes they don't come together until like, I don't know, step 9 or something like that. All right, so see this right here? It's getting a lot darker on the perimeter like that. Take a look at it like so. It's kind of, it's kind of getting there a little bit. I need to come right in here, but maybe like a colored pencil will be better for that, because I'll know I can get, shading right along there a little bit more exact. Let's see, let me give it a little bit of a head start though. I'm going a little bit darker right there. Okay. Look at that, still pretty wet right there. My fingerprints are just, pull that ink right off of there. So that being said, if I do this wiping motion right there, I'm probably going to be wiping ink off at this point in time. So you just kind of build it up this way instead. Those little microscopic little beads of ink like this. Just with a really light tapping motion. If you tap too hard, maybe you're going to remove it too. So just find the right, I don't know, kind of sweet spot in terms of your application, whatever, methodology. All right, so let's see. Let's start applying some different imagery in here. Let's go with, I don't know if I've used all of these before, but I don't know, they were sitting around here, so I thought, let's give them all a shot because this is, like I said, it's a big area in here. So this is pebbles. And I'm not really going for just a clean impression like that. I'm kind of just tapping around like this and using it more as texture. The pebbles here are kind of open forms, and the tiny rocks ones are solid. They're more closed forms. Okay, now I'm using the lighter, drier versions of this in that lighter area so we get that lighter impression. So darker, wetter impressions in the dark, right? And then the drier and lighter impressions in the light. So your texturing is reiterating lighting. You go dark and wet, like that, just as when I'm applying this, it's wetter inks over here, and then by the time I move in here, it's a drier version. In this case, black, it looks more like a, I don't know, whatever, 5% gray. All right, so let's try the larger tiny rocks. Okay. Okay, that is a really gravelly surface right there. Not so sandy, but a bunch of rocks. See that right there? It's getting there in terms of merging with this because we had to kind of match it from a value standpoint, right? So that silver right there, there's a lot of darks in there and light. So now we have dark and light in this area right here. Okay, so I don't know. I might not even have to go back in and tone over this with additional ink, but I think the colored pencils might add in a nice little tinge of a hue. Although that already looks a little bit kind of greenish gray, doesn't it? We've mentioned this before in the broadcast. I wasn't aware that this Memento, unless I polluted my pad at some point in time with, some other ink. But I don't know, I think the re-inker fluid was a little bit, kind of a greenish gray, the re-inker. Because I don't remember that Memento being kind of a, having any kind of temperature to it. I thought it was more of a neutral gray. Okay, this is the Tiny Rock Small. Okay, so I'm going to use this as a toning device out here too. Just getting some additional impressions out here, but it's just kind of darkening the edges just to kind of frame off this area a little bit more. All right. So let's get our bearings here. Okay, that's the way that'll look right there. There's still a big difference. Well, I guess not in all lighting. I guess that's kind of like real neutral lighting right here. I mean, this is really like kind of extreme right here, but what I'll do is I'll bring in some black pigment ink, black brilliance ink into these areas. And I'm going to really spray seal this piece right here. Normally, I don't like doing that too much if I'm doing a reflection card because I want things to reflect really strongly into this area. And if you spray seal this too much, it kind of turns it a little bit more like a frosty silver as opposed to like a real mirrored silver. But on this case, it'll still be really reflective in here. So if I spray it quite a lot, I don't think it'll be, detrimental to the overall kind of look of the piece. But okay, I think that worked out pretty decently down there in terms of, going really heavy with that, with the tones down there, the shadows. I still need to model this a little bit more with some, maybe, like I said, maybe some colored pencil or something like that, like a black colored pencil. But okay, let's go into this silver piece right here, and we'll use the Brilliance Black. And maybe I should do this one last because I'm going to be touching this, and this is where I get like really inky fingers. Yeah. Let's do that later on because, see, if I'm going to get all these smudgy fingers, and then I'm going to be handling this, and if I have smudgy fingers and I touch this, it's really going to stick on this printable vinyl. The printable vinyl just grabs that ink and, doesn't let it go. Okay, so the lighthouse is going to be right here in the corner, if you can see that right there. Okay. So I don't know, I can bring it in a little bit. But okay, so I want to have these clouds right around in here. And I was thinking about this cloudy area up above. So maybe there'll be some clouds right here. But I wanted to kind of do that thing with the cloud cumulus where there's this lighting coming in from, I don't know, one of the corners. I guess I can have it coming in from, I don't know. It'll be coming in from the center. All right, so I was debating, on whether or not I should just do this, give a head start here, because this is going to be a lot of white ink, on this whole perimeter here. I'll try to be quick with it, though. I did re-ink this as well, so. Okay, so let me see. This is going to be the reversed here, but I'm just getting the height here. So this is going to go about right here. Okay, so about midway up, I need to go with my white in this section right here. And then the rest of it doesn't really matter. Unless I'm going to put like a quote stamp up there or something like that. But I don't know, I haven't planned that far ahead. I just kind of know where the clouds are going to go. Yeah, smaller quantity, cheaper mirror paper. Candy, if you're using it every day, you'll be going through 30 sheets per month. So 60 sheets would last you 2 months then. No, I hear you. I don't know, yeah. The problem with those smaller packs of like silver paper, they're like $1 each, like 10 sheets of it. And the 60 pack is like, I don't know, it's like $18. But I hear you. I don't know. Yeah. Phone a friend. Say, hey, you need some silver cardstock. But I don't know, 60 seems to be the quantity in terms of the pricing of it. I was looking for it the other day because the seller that I've always been linking to, that was the cheapest stuff that I had ever found. It's the one that I'm using. But I noticed there's like other sellers, in that same, around that same price point. I don't know if it's the exact same thing or if it's quite as mirrored. It sure looks like it though from the photographs. I've seen some other silver cardstock, and I do have some other cardstock, and it's not quite as mirrored. I didn't buy it because I thought it was going to be as mirrored, though. I just wanted some silver cardstock, but it's more of like I'd say it's kind of more in the spirit of like a brushed aluminum. So Whatever, if you're going for that real kind of reflective type of surface, just really make sure that it's not that kind of that dull silver, whatever incarnation. The one thing that I could really use is some of this printable vinyl just in silver, as opposed to the holographic. I was thinking that would have been perfect for this lower section here, because I could have applied my white in there and just stamped over the top of it. I can use colored pencils on there, which would have been perfect. And if it was still reasonably kind of mirrored, I think if this was just like, somewhat mirrored, it's not super reflective, but I think it's reflective enough in there. I think that would have worked really well for this scene. But I don't think I've seen just silver printable vinyl before. I don't know. You think they would have it though, huh? Silver and gold. I mean, those are certainly real popular in cardstocks, and I can see people running, I don't know, just different like invitations with silver and gold for, whatever usages they might have for this type of sticker paper. So okay, so going back to that silver too, I thought someone picked up some silver, not cardstock, but not chipboard either. I don't know like at the 99-cent store, like I don't know, like in the party section or something like that. I, someone's used something like that before. Now that's not getting inexpensive or anything like that per sheet or something like that. But I don't know how much they paid for it. But I do seem to recall that it. I thought I remember it being fairly mirrored. Okay, but if you just want to get like a couple, like a pack of it or something like that. I doubt if it was being sold by the sheet. It was probably a pack of 10 or something like that. But you might be able to find something like that fairly inexpensive. I don't know if it'll be in the format of like 8.5 by 11, but it doesn't need to be. You can just do it whatever size you want. For card making purposes. All right, so everywhere I put this, I know you can't really tell what I'm doing here really well, but this is what I'm doing right here. And this is going to be around the entire perimeter of this piece, okay? And I'm trying to vary it where it's a little bit lower. In some areas, I'll go a little bit higher because, that'll be like cloud formations, okay? And I'm going to stamp my cloud, I think, in black over the top of this. I've been doing it in real light, kind of airy tones, light blues, things like that, to go with these white clouds in here. But I want to experiment a little bit and go a little bit grayscale up here. So the idea is to get that foundation going and blocking out with the white, and then I stamp my clouds in it in black, and then I go back in and I add in some shading with some additional, black ink over the top of it with a, cotton ball. I don't know if that's going to look okay. We'll see. But I wanted I wanted this one to look a little bit more dramatic, or to see if this kind of this rainbow holographic. I mean, it's a happy surface like that. Okay. Not that kind of going grayscale and dramatic is going to be like somber or sad or anything like that, but I just think it's going to be, kind of a slightly different kind of emotional tone to it if it works out or not, or if it works. So I do think it's kind of going against kind of the nature of this, of the of the material. All right. This type of repetitive motion right here, you see how I'm turning my card as opposed to turning, you know what I mean? Don't go like this and, you know, kind of work out of your comfort zone in terms of kind of the natural positioning of your hands. You know, keep it nice and ergonomic every time you're doing, you know, repetitive types of motions like this. And this is also, I'm doing this, I'm not pounding this on here. It's just kind of like I'm just kind of lifting my hand up and just letting gravity kind of drop this. Okay, I'm not forcing this down. Maybe slightly, but, you know, barely anything. And then when you're applying this too, utilize the drier version of it. You can see I'm really not re-inking this very often, okay? First of all, because I've re-inked this a lot of times, so it's really, that ink has really gotten kind of compacted back into this. So, you know, I'm able to apply this for a while. See, I've been applying it for a while, but you can see there's still barely anything on there. Okay, but that being said, so I'm transitioning this from the thicker application out here to the drier application in here, so that it kind of goes from thick to thin and, you know, kind of lighter to, you know, darker, like that. So in other words, the more opaque you make it, you know, the lighter it's going to be, just because, you know, the paper isn't going to be showing through as much. So this is what this looks like right here. Okay. About like so. And you can see it's all kind of, it's not a smooth application of this medium right here. Okay, it's very, very textured, and it's blotchy. I guess blotchy is the word for it, I guess. Okay. All right, but okay, so the main area, M-A-I-N, not M-A-I-N-E. You know, speaking of lighthouses, this is a main lighthouse that I'm doing right here, but I just need to get this area filled in pretty decently, because that's where I'm going to be stamping the lighthouse, and I want to utilize this field of white for my colored pencils. So if you apply a little bit more ink, the brilliance ink in that area, I just think that the colored pencils have a little bit more to grab into. Okay. It doesn't make this paper textured or anything like that, but it's just, and it kind of makes it gives it a kind of a chalky surface for those colored pencils to to grab onto. And by the way, this is brilliance ink on the printable vinyl. So keep in mind, this is not the cardstock. So all of this white on here is completely dry and adhered to this. Okay, if I was doing this on top of like a holographic cardstock, I could just wipe right through here, and all of that brilliance ink would come right off. Okay, which you can do, but you know, if you're applying this on top of like a holographic cardstock, what you do is you just spray seal it before you would be handling this. So it gets a little bit kind of weird, you know, when you're doing this type of thing on a holographic cardstock, because all you need to do is just, if I just touch it like that and I lift my hand, you've removed like 100% of the ink off the surface. It's good for, in terms of blending imagery, or blending your tones and everything like that, you know, because it doesn't dry really fast. and it, and you can totally manipulate it. But that being said, you can also remove it too. All right, so I think that is good right there. I don't know. Let me see how this is going to look here, if I can even tell it all. I guess it kind of looks like clouds in there. Yeah, somewhat. But I do want, think about this, like I said, I wanted all that that color to kind of show through a little bit. So you can see this where you've applied more of the white, it really blocks out the holographic nature. And you can see these kind of transition zones in here where it's, it's a little bit more opaque on the outside edge where I've applied more of the white ink. And then there's areas where there's like a, I don't know, whatever, 50, 30, 20, 10% application of that white where the colors show through, but maybe they're a little bit more kind of muted. And then the center area where it's not, blocked out at all, you have 100% of that, the holographic patterning in there. Okay. So that helped a lot, I think, just in terms of this area too. Like this area right in here, this was reflecting a lot of that color in there. I didn't necessarily want this sandy area to, have all these rainbow colors in there that they would have in the water. So this area right in here blocked out. So I don't have that area, just, totally, whatever, a kaleidoscope of colors right in this sandy area. So because it's reflecting, what's going on right up here. So that seemed to remedy a lot of that in there. And also maybe see this area right here where that, where I put that tone right up here. I think that area right here is reflecting right here a little bit, right? So this is at 90 degrees right here. So I don't have as much of that rainbowy kind of effect right in this kind of the most significant wave right here. So I don't know. That being, I think that took care of a lot of things for me in terms of the amount of work I'm going to have to put in on this one, which I didn't want to have to do a lot anyway. All right, so hello, Jennifer. Thanks for joining in. Hello, Bugs. Hello, Rhonda. So hopefully, Jennifer, hopefully this isn't not this experiment here is not going to be an inspiration to not do this combination right here. I wasn't sure if it was going to, these. Anytime I'm doing like all these different surfaces like this, I never know if it's going to kind of harmonize with each other. You can use all these different types of things in a project and you can get them to, go well together. But this is like a scene where everything's supposed to kind of like merge in with one another and be of one location, where it's sky and land and, water and all that. It's kind of, it's kind of harmonizing with each other. So, I don't know, I'm finding that shadow work, your use of darks and shade black, basically, is the thing that I think is the thing that's bringing all these different types of things together. I've only done this once before, so I'm thinking about that this baby sea turtles one where I stamped out the Seaside Cove and that I think it was the glittery printable vinyl, holographic vinyl. But I don't know, I just used a lot of like shading and shadow work in there, and that seemed to do the trick. I'm trying to remember what I used. Oh, the sky was the photograph. Okay, I'm probably holding this down here too long. I'm stamping this out in the Brilliance ink right here. Okay, you can use StazOn. I'm finding the Brilliance, though, probably works a lot better on here. Just it doesn't grab on so much, but you could use the brilliance on here, okay? Maybe even a dye-based ink stamping onto the brilliance white. Okay, so this is one of the things I mention, or I try to remember to mention, is that when you give that foundational type of application with this white like that, you're not really printing, although this would work on the printable vinyl, everything prints on the printable vinyl, but a lot of times if you're doing this kind of blocking out on like foils or something like that, and you do that white down as a foundation like that, a base coat, you're doing is really stamping on top of brilliance ink. You're not really stamping on top of, directly printable vinyl like that, okay? All right, so that being said, let's use the cloud in here. Now this is where things are going to be a little bit different from what I've done in the past, just in terms of the value scheme on here. Okay, in my head I was thinking, I wonder if I should go with the dye-based ink on here, or if I should just go with the brilliance ink again. This brilliance ink is really thick, and this cloud stamp here is nothing but like really condensed dots. So for this one here, I think I'm going to go with my dye-based ink. It's just thinner, so it won't fill in the textures in here. I think it'll work okay, but let's go with the dyes here. Okay, and I'm saying this too because this one, if these clouds stamp out lighter than that impression of the black, that's fine because I want these more grayscale, but I wanted a nice, deep, solid impression of that, so using the thicker media for that, in terms of a pigment ink, is probably a good way to go. All right, so on the cloud cumulus, this is going to be facing towards my light, so every time I'm facing it towards this opening in here where the light is coming from, this is going to be pointed towards it. So if you're using an unmounted version, one of the things I showed my class, which customer showed me that she did, I don't know, a year or two ago, is on the back of the stamp, she just put an arrow on the cling foam or the unmounted just rubber pointing upwards like that or in that direction. So every time you do this, every time you stamp it out, you're going to be pointing it in the direction of that light. Okay, so you just know. Okay, so that being said, what I'm doing is I'm wiping off all this ink right up here so that it transitions from wet to dry and dark to light like that. And that's where the light is coming from. So I don't want this harsh kind of area like that. That's there for a reason, if you're building up a lot of clouds. But on this, I'm just going to, be stamping this cloud like this, and it's just going to end right here. There's not going to be additional clouds up there like that. Okay, so this right here is going to be stamped over that. And let's go ahead and mask that off a little bit. So these clouds are going to be right on the horizon of that Seaside Cove. Okay, but you see that right there where that just really transitions right there. There's no harsh kind of like rectangle line because I wiped it off. All right. All right, so let's just bear with me here. I'm going to have to re-ink this every time. I can't go for like multiple impressions like this because this surface here really grabs the ink off of here, so there's not going to be enough ink on there for an additional impression. Okay, so every time, so I'm doing this, I'm wiping off the edges like this, where that cloud overlaps into this impression, like so, and I change the angle slightly so overlap like that, all right? Just do a simple wipe off, and wipe off, a good amount of ink. Don't be too gingerly with that. Now, remember, you can do this, I'm doing this in black on this one because I've been doing this vinyl holographic. I've been typically using something like a Bahama blue or something like that. So oh, here it is right here. So you can make these clouds look nice and billowy and soft and, kind of less ominous looking just by going with a lighter tone. But on this one, like I said, I wanted it to kind of harmonize with that silver foil down below. That's fairly dark looking. Now see, I didn't need to wipe that one off right there because I have this other cloud up above like that. Now I'm stamping this into the white, but you can stamp it just directly onto the, that printable vinyl. And you'll have, you'll just have the colors of the vinyl showing right through the clouds. And as a matter of fact, you can see it down there showing through some of those kind of lighter applications of the white. Okay, so see this? These clouds are being top lit. The clouds up here are being bottom lit. Okay. Let's see, Linda, what texturing stamp were you referring to? The pebbles or? Okay, let's see. See this right here? Just kind of overlap and change your angle, even if it's just slightly like that from one impression to the next. So this one's like here, and the next one, I'll go like that, okay? And I'll come up like this a little bit. So you'll never see a seam in between, your impressions of those clouds. And, you just kind of wipe it off and it really gives it a head start in terms of the blending process. So don't line up your clouds, kind of like edge to edge, okay? Because then it will show that, seam, potentially. I mean, yeah, if you wipe it off, it'll be a very light seam, but you don't have to have any of it. Okay. All right, so that's the way it's looking right now. I might go for well, I don't know if I can go for a second impression. I'll probably have to blot it off on the piece of paper like that, and then go in here again like that. Okay. And let's go out here. All right, so I just stamped it right into that lighthouse. Now see, that's the thing that you can do because see, I'm stamping it right into the lighthouse like that right here, right? But the thing is that I've wiped it off right there, so it's stamping out much lighter. So if you get a really light little dots in this area right here, you can't even see it. I mean, we could have, thrown a little mask on it like that and stamped over it like that, but you really don't need to if you just kind of wipe off the perimeter where you're going to be stamping over that image. So I don't know if I want to go for a impression right over the top of that, like in the background there, but this is looking a little bit too kind of symmetrical for me. So I think I do want to break this up a little bit more by coming in here like maybe like this or like right around here maybe. Let's do it. Here, let's see what this is looking like. Okay, like that. Let's come from down here a little bit more. Linda, did you have a lot of options in Canada for like a pack of, Silver Mared? Now, in this case right here, Ginger, I'm not going for, this isn't really, I'm not really going for a reflection card here. I just wanted this air, this ocean stamp to be real shimmery, okay? And when I spray it, it won't be quite as mirrored. But if you're going for a reflection card, I would go for something as mirrored as you can get. Where, things are being mirrored down there. It just depends, though. Sometimes, I mean, the kind of the bolder you go with your imagery. I'm talking about reflection cards, not like this one right here. The bolder you go up top here with kind of stronger contrasts, the less mirrored that lower material has to be because, it shows the contrast in here stronger. But, the more mirrored it gets, the more options you have in terms of that reflective quality. Okay, now here's the thing. See, I didn't necessarily want this all, like this lighthouse to be completely mirrored in here. Like I said, it's going to be a lot more muted because I'm going to come across here with into these areas in here, and I'm going to add some shadows and things like that in here. So, but I don't know. Kind of the more I add up top here, I'm thinking the less work I think I need to do on this piece. I mean, like just in a kind of an extreme scenario, I think I could probably just leave this as is. I mean, it's not harmonizing greatly. It can really use some shading in here as well as up here. But even just like that, I mean, it's reasonably interesting, I think. Huh. All right, so that being said, oh, but try other things too. Try. Okay, I was gonna grab some. I had a bunch of my mirrored reflection cards somewhere. I don't know. I've refiled them or something. I don't know. Put them out there, but you can have like gold down here. So the gold pairs really well with this holographic because you can see all these kind of warmer tones in here too. So the gold reflection down here is really awesome as a mirror type of surface, because what that gold does is it reflects off the gold, so you get that gold reflecting back up in here. So it kind of influences your imagery up here. So like these images in here, with gold being reflected back in this white, it would make these images in here look a little bit warmer. So yeah, so keep that in mind in terms of the different kind of possibilities of those lower sections down here. Maybe this one, if you had like a light blue silver kind of, it might be kind of interesting. So here's this kind of this gold version like this. It's just as an example. Look at that right there. Isn't that crazy? But look at that warm kind of lighthouse like that. I don't know. Yeah, just keep that in mind. There's different things you can go with. I don't know how many like mirrored colors there are though. I don't know if there was like a real pale blue one that would be kind of interesting, I think. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Did some people have some stuff? Other types of mirrored card stocks that are different colors than gold or silver. Hello, CM Hawkins. Hey, Deanna, how are you? Let's see. I bought a sheet of vinyl sticker paper. Will that work? Well, the vinyl sticker paper that I'm doing, this is vinyl sticker paper right here. What kind is it, Caroline? Is it, what color is it? Is it a piece of holographic? And are you sure it's vinyl? Oh, wait. That's vinyl sticker paper. Is that a printable vinyl sticker paper, Caroline? Because there's vinyl sticker paper too. And then there's printable vinyl sticker paper. Oh, the texturing stamp. Well, I used three, Linda. I used all three of these textures like this. So I used the tiny rocks, the larger and the small one, and then I just threw in pebbles in there. Uh, I think they work pretty well together. I'm trying to think if it mattered. I think that the larger tiny rocks and definitely the tiny rocks one for sure. But I don't know, this one there was such a just a big open area, Linda. That's why I used all three of them together. And I don't know. I don't know. When I was just grabbing some stuff, it was happened to be there, so I just grabbed it though. Should foil and vinyl be sprayed most of the time? I don't spray the printable vinyl, Caroline, but again, the printable vinyl and vinyl are different surfaces. The printable vinyls are very different in terms of the way that they accept media, especially water-based media. So keep that in mind. So this right here, the printable vinyl, I don't spray it because the media that I use on here adheres to it and dries on there just fine. Okay. All right. Now, see, I'm going into this surface here, and I'm going to add some extra lighting in here. Well, I'm adding shade, but that kind of it reiterates lighting in other areas, and I don't know what it illuminates lighting. Okay, so via contrast. So if we add some tone on here, I was going to put another island over here too. I don't want to add this everywhere. Okay. My application of it might be too clunky anyway, so I usually don't apply like tone with a cotton ball, like dye-based inks. But I found that it worked pretty good. I don't know, I was just fooling around in one of those live streams, and I thought, that doesn't work, that's not too bad if you want a really super kind of soft application. Now, if I was going for some vast area of color like this, I'm going to use a cotton ball for that because it'll take me forever to get that on there. A paper towel absorbs moisture, much more than a cotton ball. So if you're absorbing moisture, you're going to have more moisture to transfer, right? In theory. But this is a really good, cotton balls aren't too bad for just really soft applications of tone. I mean, you go like that, I'd really recommend the 100% cotton versions because the synthetics, as I've mentioned before, they wick moisture, so they kind of repel moisture. So if they're repelling moisture as you're inking up like this, you're not going to have the moisture, the ink to transfer onto your pieces. At least in kind of a something with decent, as far as like a decent transfer rate. You can do it with those other types of mediums, is wicking types of materials, the synthetics, but it's just going to take so much longer to do. Okay, so that looks not too bad there. I thought this would be a lot more clunky, but going with the dye-based inks and the cotton ball is working pretty good here. It's because it's just really applying it nice and slowly. On the printable vinyl, it really grabs it grabs the moisture pretty fast, right? And it dries it really fast. I mean, this is really dry right now. So I was worried about it being kind of thick and kind of a thick, kind of a I don't know, semi-precarious process, but that is like really easy to do. So I don't know, go out and get a good pack of blending clouds, they call them in the craft store. We're joking here. Okay, so let's see. Let's add a little bit of tone down here on some of these rocks. Don't tone out everything, you know. So this is you're kind of oscillating your shadow areas. So I'm going with a little shadow here. It's lighter here. This is a little bit more open. Shadow, shadow. You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't really matter where you put it. Just kind of oscillate your light so that you have contrasts playing against one another, okay? Where you apply dark, it looks light next to it. And where there's light, you know, it'll make some area that you've applied a little bit of tone to look darker by contrast. So they call it checkerboarding, you know. It's called like, you know, I don't know. That's one of my art teachers called it checkerboarding. So it's kind of creating a varied surface, you know, just for, I don't know, whatever visual richness or potential visual richness. All right, so let's take a look and see. I wish that would apply so easily on this silver cardstock, but, you know, we'll just have to work with it for what it is. Okay, see like that. I'm looking to see right in here. It seems like the patterning's, I don't know, it kind of changed a little bit. Maybe I've kind of, I don't know if I put in some, I don't think I've bent it at all or anything like that, but it seems, I don't know, there's like a real definitive like shape there. It's like an eyeball or something. But there's the card opening right there. I always find that to be kind of a dramatic look, you know, when someone's like opening something like this. I mean, it looks like the sky is changing, you know, in terms of the colors. It's like a time lapse of a, you know, I don't know, whatever time of day, going from noon to whatever, you know, twilight or something like that, which I think is kind of cool. All right, so I don't know, black, kind of grayscale on top of the printable vinyl. I think that looks pretty cool. All right. Should foil and vinyl be sprayed? Okay, I got that one right there. I seem to know silver on a lot of paper things. Huh. It's good to have those reflectives. They're nice and exciting in terms of just, you know, the interplay of light within a given space. So something that's kind of mirrored like that, or just, you know, it's just bling, you know what I mean? Something that reflects back up at you from a surface is always fun. Now, see, I was thinking I might need to do that for this too. This is just, you know, it just represents light, but I thought having this kind of silver next to it, I might have to put some silver kind of highlights in here just to bring some of this reflective type of nature into this area that it's next to. So I don't know, like clear, I don't know about glitter, but like a wink of Stella type of touch on there. You know, just a little bit of shimmer might be kind of interesting. I also have foil paper. Should white ink be applied before stamping on foil or vinyl? It just depends what you're going for, Caroline. I mean, the simplest type of kind of explanation is if I put that black ink down first and I applied the white over the top of it, we wouldn't be able to see the black anymore, right? But that being said, sometimes you might want to apply, you know, white underneath there and put the black on top, but then maybe I want some extra little billowy white touches on top of this, so you'd put the white on top of the black, which is on top of the white. So it just depends on where you want. Like I said, like down here, the white was applied on the back of the vinyl, but then I stamped this on here. But if you stamp this first and you put the white over the top of it, you're going to be losing some of your forms. But sometimes I want like a foggy touch in front of my objects, right? So it just represents something that's kind of within the distance here, the sequencing in here, and it depends what you're going after. Now on something like this, I don't think I could put that white on here. I'm trying to remember if I've done that on foils. I guess I have done that on foils, but you might stamp onto foils like this where the white isn't adhered to it, and sometimes when you stamp into that white with a black ink and then you pull that image off of the surface, the black doesn't transfer onto that white. But what you've done is you've just removed the white that was already on there sometimes. So sometimes it's giving you a little bit of a kind of a reverse impression. So it just depends, you know. I mean, it's different. There's not like one kind of answer. It just depends on, you know, the type of look that you're going after. But there is certain types of sequencing, you know, with the different types of surfaces too, you know, and it might be different, you know, from a surface that's very, very accepting of your different types of media, and one that's just totally not, you know, conventionally made to really accept any type of media. So in this case, I just use the, you know, the stays on this one. Okay, so that being said, I think it's time to get to this one. Okay, here. I wanted to put an extra little island. Let me see what this is looking like. Sometimes, you know, you go into these scenes like this with some, you know, sometimes some plans, but like right here, say I was thinking about going with a little bit of a distant island right here, and I might add that in here like that, just to balance it off. See, it's kind of, it's not too balanced right now. I think I can go with this right in the distance out there. I'm just gonna go with a smaller one. I think the larger one is a little bit too big like that. Of course, that's going to be opposite. It's going to be like this. And I'm going to put some trees on that, I think. All right, no, I think I'm just going to do the island here. Because out in Maine, there are some distant islands out there. If you can ever get out to Maine in the fall, of course, if you kind of live in that general area where you get all those fall colors anyways and it's surrounding you, and not, you know, it's not going to be a big deal to you. But if you want to see all those like different like super extreme fall colors, get out to Maine. I think isn't it in September? Or is it August? Maybe it's August. You know, in the peak color. Okay. This one's good. I mean, this is going to be a little bit subtle here. It's just going to be a little bit of a bump there, kind of supposed to be in the distance. Okay, I stamped that a little bit too high, but I was going to say, I think I'll just be able to fill in underneath it. I mean, it's okay there, but see that stamp also kind of fisheyed on me. You see those lighter areas within that space, but I'll just fill that in with some extra tone. All right, like that. Okay. All right, so let's get in with the toning process here, using the black ink too while we're at it. Okay, so I'm just going to do this mostly. I'm going to do most of my applications, I think, with the Q-tip here. Okay. I'm talking about for the lower section, not just for this island, but this is a perfect little tool for this right here. All right. Okay, so, by the way, this is what this looks like right here. Okay. And we'll match that a little bit more by shading in some of this over here, but I think I'm going to do that with the colored pencil. All right. Let's see. Should foil and vinyl be sprayed? Okay, so the foil, I don't know if I answered that. The foil you really need to spray if you're using media that's not going to adhere to it. So, gosh, it's kind of hard for me to see this right here because this is so reflective. But what I'm doing is underneath some of these waves right in here, see where they're darker anyway like that? Here, you can see it like that. I'm going to be darkening those areas in even more. So I'm going to be reiterating, here you can see it right here actually. I'm going to be reiterating the shading design of the actual design, okay? So like underneath the waves, I'll be adding, some extra tones into these areas like that. And I just don't want to do that because I want to kind of see everything is kind of working on a vignette right now. It's kind of darker on the perimeter like this, and it's lighter in the center like this. But this right here, it's like totally open on both sides like that. So I just want to bring in some of that extra shading, to focus the, kind of the attention to the interior. So I'm going to be doing that with the Brilliance ink. It's not going to work with StazOn, okay, because you can't really blend StazOn on here. So the Brilliance you can do that with, but you do that and you just spray seal it to make it adhere. The Brilliance will dry on here. Don't try this with like a VersaFine Clair or something like that. That's an oil-based ink, and it's, I'm not sure if it would even dry on here even after you spray seal it. So the Brilliance will dry on here. Now, like I said, I don't know if I absolutely need to do this in here. I think it looks fairly decent just without it, but I think this extra shading on here would be pretty good just to, it just kind of fine tunes things a little bit. Okay, so this, let me see if you can see it right there. Is that tone that I'm adding in there? That darkness like that. You can see it like that where I'm glaring like that. I'm finding that this kind of using this like a little paintbrush is working. I thought I would have to tap it in there, but it's really working really well just as like a little paintbrush like this, just to get it. It's not a super dark slathering of it or anything like that. It's just kind of like a, yeah, I don't know, like a 5% gray or 10%, and it's adhering. It's actually adhering to it a little bit better than I thought it would. I mean, I could still just wipe it off if I want to, but it's grabbing it surprisingly well here. So see this right underneath this. Okay, I'm just gonna add this in here. It's hard to show you on a. It's hard to, if anyone's done kind of these foil cards or anything like that, it's hard to photograph these too. So I always mention if you're, posting an example of something on the reflective types of surfaces, just hold it in your hand, just to get it kind of the right angle, in order for it to show. Okay. People want to set it down, then they can't find the great positioning for their camera, and then they're, they have their camera, they're in the, in the reflection, which I think is fine, but I don't know, some people don't want to be. And darker to lighter like that, okay? And then just switch it around like this so that you're always using kind of this stroke like that, or whatever stroke's going to be the most comfortable for you, in order to get that type of, kind of more gestural, kind of light, wet to dry type of look, and darker to light like that. And then if you don't get it, then on the foil here, all you do is you just kind of just wipe some of it off like that. Let me see if I can get a better, lighting it. Yeah. There is no lighting that I can do for you guys to see this better. Okay, so there's some rocks down here. Here, I'll show you what I'm doing right here. So these rocks down here, how they're darker. So I'll just reiterate that a little bit more. I'll make some of these rocks a little bit darker at the base, just to reiterate lighting and shade. Going over here. I'm coloring in most of this area right in here. I guess, I don't know. That's, I guess it's what I'm doing here is it's kind of like I'm just like smudging ink on here. So remember, don't have this too wet either, you know? So just keep utilizing kind of your drier version of it. And, you know, just get kind of just a little tinge of tone on there. And I know one inking is going a lot farther, or further than I thought it would go. Okay, let me see if you can see this at all here. Let me see if I can see it. Okay, so I don't know if you can see these. You know, the forms in here are a little bit more defined, I think. You know, the waves right in here. You know, whereas before it's just, you know, all that color just kind of reflecting off of there. You couldn't really see them as much. Okay, now so I've come into these areas right in here with some additional tone under my waves. Now I'm going to try to do that with white in here, although I don't think I need to as quite as much as I thought I might have to. But let's give it a try here. All right. And I don't know, it's not as fragile as I thought too. You know, just getting that little kind of smudge on there. I guess when I've built it up a lot before with more ink, just touching it's very obvious. You know, when you touch into that, it removes a lot of it. But I guess when you just kind of do like a light smudge, it's so little that it's not quite as apparent, because the application of it isn't as extreme. All right, so going back with brilliance in here. Let's see. Did someone get some paper from Hobby Lobby then? How is it? Oh, near the Cricut things. Yeah, I think a lot of the there's a lot of papers that are out there these days, due to the Cricut and like printing stuff, like the printable vinyls. So we're kind of lucky to have all these things available to us right now. Although there were a lot of other types of like cardstocks available previously, but it seems like the more kind of boutique, types of papers and surfaces. It seems like there's a lot more of them these days. To me, I don't know. Maybe because I wasn't really aware of them before. Okay, so where I'm adding these little touches with the white like that, you can see the white like there much easier. But I'm just going in and reiterating these lighter areas like that with this white. Again, I don't want to do it